WBBB, bam, the future of boom bap music. Yo, WBBB, back to the boom bap radio. It's your man, Mr. Boom Bap, the boom bap enthusiast, holding it down. And today we're talking about the listening by little brother, Fonte, Big Pooh, and back then Knife Wonder was in it too. So you know how we do, 10 things you didn't know about the listening. So coming up, I'll be playing some facts about speed, whatever you say, the yo-yo, and a whole lot more, you know what I'm saying? So keep it locked on WBBB, back to the Boom Bap Radio. Peace. WBBB, bam, the future of boom bap music. Since we're going to be talking about the listening, I think it's only right to start with the song Speed. That song pretty much set the tone for what the album The Listening would become. The other thing is, if things had worked out differently, according to what was stated in their brilliant documentary, May the Lord Watch, Little Brother could have consisted of Fonte, Knife Wonder, and Median.
We were gonna do a record one night called Speed, and it was supposed to be me and Median over a knife track. Median never shows up. And so Pooh's with me, and we just like, all right, well shit, well, I mean, me and Pooh can rock it. All right, fuck it, let's do it.
I was anxious to show my improvement anyway. We do the record. I was hearing Pooh, I was like, oh shit. I could tell he started to gain his confidence, you know what I mean? And you could just hear it in him. We go out to the car. That was the ultimate test. We go out to the car. We running the record.
Take on speaker losses tweaking, cause the way we be rocking it when joints is finished. At the speed we be moving, we could never be diminished. With my energy replenished, write a rhyme with puns and all my similes intended. Speed out until I finish up.
And we all looking at each other like, oh shit. I think we got something here.
Pooh couldn't have been more correct about them having something. Something that I discovered as a senior in college back in '03. One day, one of my friends brought over a blank CD of The Listening. He popped it in, and me, him, and the rest of my guys just sat there and listened to the whole thing. I've been a Little Brother fan ever since. But anyway, enough about me. Let me get back to the story. So they recorded Speed, did the car test, they loved it, and started recording more songs. Another one of those songs is the Yo-Yo. If I'm not mistaken, Fonte got a hip-hop quotable in the source for his verse on the song. In an episode of the Questlove Supreme podcast, Fonte talked about the thought process behind his verse on the song. Basically, what had happened was, Fonte had an underwhelming experience as a host of a local poetry night.
Yeah, poetry was always, for me, it was, and that's why I can appreciate what you, Malcolm, because, when you saying, I'm a poet, because for me coming up, so much of poets, they were failed MCs, you know what I mean? Like, they weren't really, they were, guys that's like, they weren't good enough to be rappers, so they would kind of be in like this middle ground, this poetry thing. But
now we're just critics.
Yeah, but all they poems would be about they'd just be about fucking and shit. You know what I mean? Like I was hosting this poetry night. I got this gig. And it was in Durham, and it was my friend Tracy Evora and Matt Sherman. They hear this wherever they are.
You tell us.
No, I don't. I love Tracy and Matt to this day. Love them to this day. Tracy is actually the girl on The Listening. It's WJLR Slow Jams. That's Tracy.
Right. Okay.
So anyway,
okay.
So she had this thing. She was having this poetry night. She was like, "Yo, we want you to come host it," and I was like, all right, cool. How much y'all paying? And it was like $100. And like, nigga, $100 and like 2,000? What? Shit. It wasn't but $10 to fill up my little Mazda. Nigga, I was eating. I'm like, hell yeah, let's go. So I go and I do the joint and I'm hosting and I'm just being me. You know what I mean? I'm just doing me. I'm talking my shit, just whatever. And the poets are coming up there and they're really bad. Like this, they kind of suck. And so I'm just talking my shit, whatever. So afterwards, the next day, we talk. She calls me after the gig, I get paid and everything. And I'm like, yeah, so when's the next one? Like, I'm ready. I'm thinking this is going to be a monthly. I got like a little monthly, my little residency, whatever. My little $100, nigga. Shit, I'm out here. When the next joint? She was like, yeah, so we kind of got some complaint from the patrons, you know what I mean? You know, because I'm like, well, what complaint? Well, you know, it was you saying the N-word. And I said, well, Tracy, I don't say the N-word. I say nigga. Let's clear that shit up real fast. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just being me. You know what I mean? It wasn't about poets or any, you know, whatever. It was just about the pretentiousness of that scene.
No, you're
It
right.
wasn't about people with the crap. It was just the pretentiousness of the scene. It was just like, you know, y'all are up here like claiming to be a higher level of conscious or whatever, but the rappers are rapping about fucking girls and y'all just up here talking about fucking girls. Like, get the fuck out of here.
But it makes a lot of sense to create a satire around the poetry scene though, because perception is reality sometimes. People have come to expect the finger snapping when the poems are done and the incense burning and the head wraps, but what are you really talking about though? And on the listening, a recurring theme was Big Pooh and Fonte playing with the concept of style over substance. A little later, we'll discuss them doing that on the title track, The Listening, but right now, I want to talk about Fonte's verse on Whatever You Say. Did you know that Fonte almost went through a whole verse without rhyming? Of course you did, because he says it at the end of his verse in the one line where he rhymes. But if he hadn't done that, it probably would have taken me a few listens to notice it. He goes into more detail about his mindset behind creating this verse in an article that Little Brother did with Rolling Stone. One of the things he reveals in the article is that his Whatever You Say verse was inspired by Slum Village. Having a verse that didn't rhyme wasn't an idea I had before. That's just what came out of me when I heard that instrumental. I just thought it would be dope. Again, I was listening to Slum Village heavily at that time. Fantastic Volume 2, a God level album. I was playing it all the time. I really liked what they were doing as MCs just with rhythm and space. By 10, his verse on 2U, 4U, that's not a rhyme. None of that rhymes. Also, in that same article, Fonte explains why he still chose to rhyme the last line of the verse. I was like, okay, in order for it to really sting that it wasn't rhyming, you have to have a rhyming couplet to trigger the audience. Like, oh wow. So the personal time and verse didn't rhyme. I was like, all right, you got to have that at the end so they can actually hear a rhyme to then realize that I was not rhyming the entire time before. As a matter of fact, check out what Doja Cat said about it.
That's the best, bruh. That's one of my favorite verses in the entire history of rap ever, 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 ever. That was so smooth. He didn't rhyme one word. I don't care what anybody says. Maybe the last bar. He said personal time and verse didn't rhyme. That was the only thing he rhymed together. The whole rest of that verse was not rhymed. Nothing, not one rhyming thing, but it worked.
I was a fan of hers already, but I really am now. Make sure you subscribe to my email newsletter called The Boom Bap Enthusiast, because that's what I am, and if you rock with my channel like that, then that's what you are too. So when you join this newsletter, you're gonna get to see my new videos when they first drop, plus exclusive stuff that I can't show on YouTube because I can't play the music on here like I want to. And what's more is it's free to join. So click the link in the description and the pinned comment below to join the Boom Bap Enthusiast and show your excitement for Boom Bap. But overall, things like Fonte's verse on that song is a nice touch because as listeners, it keeps us on our toes. This is not the album for you to kind of check out and just play in the background. And the good part is, we don't really have to speculate about Little Brother's intentions for how they wanted this album to be received. Fonte talks about it on these clips from the mini doc The Listening, the story behind Little Brother's debut album, and a 2003 interview I found on the channel called D2S Archives. Little Brother views listening to an album as an event.
The significance of calling the album The Listening was that we really wanted to make a document. Like, we looked at it like an event, you know what I'm saying? And not just for our record, but just in general. Like, if you went to a store and you bought an album, you went back to your home or to your car and you sat down for the listening, where, you know, you would sit down, you listen to the music, you read the lyrics, you read the credits, you know what I mean? That was something that was, it was a ritual, you know, so the listening kind of refers to that in a way, just a ritual of how you consume music and how to consume art.
And in the D2S Archives clip, we get to see a very young Fonte praising some classic hip hop albums and revealing that the listening was inspired by albums that were meant to be consumed as one complete body of work.
I was just always a big fan of albums like, you know, Nation of Millions, De La Soul is Dead, Death Certificate by Ice Cube, America's Most Wanted by Ice Cube, like, just albums like that, man, that just told a whole story. And like, you could, if you wanted to, like, you could just pick one track out and listen to it, but it's kind of like watching one scene from a DVD, you know what I'm saying? Like, on Death Certificate, I mean, that joint is like a movie, man, you know what I'm saying? And like, every song has a place, and it's just very, you know, carefully put together, and just the brilliance of albums like that, you just don't see too often no more, man. And I just really miss, like, the feeling of listening to albums like that, like it was like a, you know what I'm saying, like a cinematic experience or whatever. So that was the idea. We just want to take it back to a time when albums were albums and were meant to be listened to in their entirety, versus just, okay, just give us 3 singles and the rest you can do what you want to do with, and we'll call it an album, see what sticks. You know what I'm saying? We wanted to make an album that made sense from beginning to end.
And while we're discussing the listening, let's talk about the title track, The Listening. What inspired the nonsensical but comical verses that Little Brother featured on that song? The answer can be found on their interview from Unique Access Entertainment. You see, their verses on the song The Listening were inspired by the verbal stylings of Ghostface Killah and Camp Lo.
It was just, for me, and I just say for me because I'm just speaking from my perspective, you know, Pooh's perspective, you know, probably different, but for me, it was definitely Ghostface. It was a little Camp Lo. You know what I mean? Just those MCs who I would listen to, because for me, I always noticed that me, like, I'm very, like, I need things, like, to make sense. Like, they have to connect. They have to be, like, it has to make sense. You know what I mean? And I always admired those MCs like a Ghost. Like, I remember reading an interview and somebody questioned him about what he meant. It was like a line he said in Nutmeg. You know, Scooby snack Jurassic movie gets booby trapped. Like, and they were asked, like, so what did that mean? And he was just like, I don't know what the fuck that meant. I was high when I wrote that shit. I don't know. And I thought that shit was amazing. Like, Nutmeg is like one of my top Ghostface songs, you know what I mean? And I just always admired those MCs that had that bravery to just be like, fuck it, I'ma just get that value, I guess, more form over content, so to speak. You know what I mean? Or maybe it's the other way around, but just the feeling of something rather than the literal meaning of it. And that was something that always scared the fuck out of me, because I just always had that need to kind of make sense. So with the listening, yeah, it was just that was me, like, imitating those MCs and paying homage to those guys that I really just loved, who just had that ability and the freedom to just be just absurd.
And with the understanding that listening to an album is an experience, another aspect of that experience is the album cover artwork. Little Brother wanted their album cover to have a similar feel to the albums that they were listening to. So now we'll return to their Unique Access Entertainment interview to hear what they had to say about coming up with the album cover for The Listening.
We come from the generation of when albums come out, we get the artwork, we examine it, we open it, we pour over the details of you know, the lyrics.
That's the listening. Like, that's
the experience.
Yeah.
The experience of opening up our CD and viewing it had to go with the music.
We just wanted something that looked like it fit in with the music that we listen to. You know what I'm saying? That kind of sepia, those really, like, warm earth tones. You know, if you looked at, you know, Black Star album, you know, if you looked at most Black on Both Sides, if you looked at Reflection Eternal, if you looked at Common, Like Water for Chocolate, Slum Village,
even One Day It'll All Make Sense for Common.
One Day It'll All Make Sense. Yeah, it was like those were aesthetically, that's what we felt like. So I was like, okay, we have to have something that looks like we fit in with these other groups. And I think that was the driving force for it. The designer of the cover, my man, Frank William Miller Jr., FWMJ. That's, you know, that shout to him. That's my brother. We go back, you know, OK Player days, almost, you know, hell, 20 years at this point. You know, man? Like, straight up. So nah, man, shouts to my brother Frank, man. That was just as we were kind of going back and forth, and he was sending us stuff, because he would send stuff to me and then I would send it to the fellas. You know what I'm saying? I'd send it to Pooh and Knife. I'm like, all right, so what y'all think, you know what I mean? And then I would go back to him, we'd make changes, whatever.
I think them headphones was photoshopped in. I don't even.
Yeah, they weren't ours. We didn't own
Yeah, we didn't have them type of headphones.
Headphones we recorded the listening on were not that nice.
No.
You guys were using your Walkman headphones?
Bro, like damn near.
Just about.
With the little orange, the fucking orange pads on them. Shit. Yeah, bro. Nah, man. I remember getting the treatment back from Frank, and he just, you know, he had the headphones by it, you know what I mean? And I just remember thinking, I was like, yeah, that looks right, you know what I mean? And like I sent it, you know, I showed it to Pooh and Knife, and it was like, we all were just like, yo, that shit hard, you know what I mean? So but yeah, the headphones, they were not our headphones. We did not own a pair of headphones that nice.
Artistic decision from Frank that we felt worked. It fit. It made sense to us. It looked right as we were, you know, viewing it, going over it, and so we kept it.
So now that we've talked about the songs, the meaning of the listening, and the album cover, we kind of got to touch on the reception of the album once it was done. One of the first noteworthy people in hip-hop who I would say is a huge fan and supporter from day one was Questlove of The Roots. Because if you didn't know, around 1999, The Roots started a website called okplayer.com. This website had a daily blog when no one knew what a blog was yet, and they had message boards as well. It really was one of the first online hip-hop communities, and Questlove loved the listening so much that he left the CD playing while he was sleeping. In this clip from the May the Lord Watch documentary, Questlove tells the story of when he first heard the listening.
I was in my dressing room, eating dinner, and I was staring at it, and it just said Little Brother. Yeah, he'll probably ask me on the boards what I thought about it, and I don't want to like bullshit him. All right, let me listen to this. And I put it in.
Yeah, yo, Tay, man. Let me put you on.
I kept it on rotate, like even when I'm in my sleep, I didn't turn down the volume. I guess I, became a fan because it played for like 12 hours in a row until it was time for bus call at 3 p.m. I thought about it. I know I made a post about it, like, yo, I really like this joint, okay. But then I felt like, oh man, and if I say I like them, then what about the other 92 billion joints you didn't listen to? And I was just like, oh man, this is too good.
Yo, I swear to God, I had to make this video because being from North Carolina, being in college around the same time when Little Brother was first starting, I feel so close to their story. It's so relatable. It feels like the dream that you could put your music out as a shot in the dark, but to have someone you look up to listen to it, love it, and that could lead to a 20+ year career, is really possible. But because I'm a true day one Little Brother fan and Knife Wonder's thoughts and opinions were a blaring omission from the May the Lord Watch documentary, I'm going to end this with a clip from his documentary, The Wonder Year, where he briefly discusses the beginnings of Little Brother and addresses why Little Brother is now a 2-man group instead of a 3-man group.
In 2001, we recorded a song called Speed, and I looked at both of them and I said, man, I want to be a group. And I was just like, well, it doesn't work. We always got Speed, but if it does work, we're on to something. And that was the beginning of it. And we recorded in Comanche's bedroom, The Listening, which took us from August to February to record. Some people say it's still our best record. It's a perfect album almost, some people would say. And the way it was recorded on speakers that didn't even pan. And for people who don't know what pan means, if you put on headphones, you hear stuff in this ear, and you hear stuff in this ear. So stuff is pan to the left, and stuff is pan to the right. Well, these speakers, there were no pan. So I had to gauge where exactly the pan went. So it took a lot of burn CDs going back and forth to the car to gauge it. Once I got it, that was it. So this is the way we recorded it, how we recorded it. Just the way it was put together was just an incredible feat. I don't think it'll ever be done again. Once in a lifetime. Through so many, and I never talk about it, and I vowed that I never will talk about it. But through so many miscommunications and so many, this, that, and the third, whether it been me, whether it been Fonte, whether it been Pooh, whether it been whatever, Little Brother as 3 members is no more. Little Brother's 2 members still lives. Right? For whatever was my fault in it, Tay's fault in it, whose fault in it, because I never one time said that I didn't have a fault in it. But for whatever it is, we made some of the most incredible music, and we spawned a whole new generation of artists.
10 years prior to when Little Brother dropped their debut album, The Listening, another rap group dropped their debut album, Wu-Tang Clan. The album is called Into the Wu-Tang 36 Chambers. And my video you should see on your screen right now is called 10 Things You Didn't Know About Into the Wu-Tang. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in that next video. Peace.